Welcome back to the channel. My name is Ryan, and we're going through again some of my opinions of just the United States at this point in time. Again, this might change depending on what happens in a couple months, but we have discussed a lot of political stuff, discussing Trump, discussing Biden, discussing all of them, and we've kind of covered what is happening currently, and I give some of my opinions. It seems like some of y'all like hearing what I think. So I'm going to go through some of my opinions about the United States, and I have some facts to go with it. If you want to check it out, if your own research, you can. If you want to put in your own in the comments what you want to say, you also can. That is perfectly fine. This is an open space to say what you want. If you agree with me or not, I want to hear y'all's opinion. That's why I do this stuff from the start. Okay. So the main thing, one of the things, I would say the main thing I don't like is how split they make our country feel. When I mean they, I mean the overall the national media, coming from NBC, Fox, ABC, CNN, CBS, all those programs. They make it seem like this country is split in half between Democrat and Republican, and there's nothing else in between. A lot of people don't have a side to pick between. A lot of people just want to see the candidates and say, I like this one or I like that one. But a lot of the media says you have to follow this if you believe, if you're conservative, you must be racist and a white guy, old 60-year-old man, like type of thing. And if you're radical, you have to be progressive and everything. You have to agree with everything that we say. And you don't have to. You can pick and choose what sides you like the most. You don't have to agree with everything a Democrat says or what a Republican says. It's okay to disagree. That's a good thing. This is what the country's for. Freedom of speech, to disagree upon things. It is perfectly okay about that. And also you go around and you talk to people. Most people don't care who you believe is the better person for office, Trump or Biden. It doesn't really matter on that. It's the idea of what type of character are you? Are you a good person? What are you? Not what you think about who should be elected this year. No. A lot of times that's not the discussion. Or that's not the main thing they look at. And also another thing I don't like is how we have two old guys running for president. I've never liked that. I've never liked that. And it's the main reason of these decisions they're making now will not affect them 10 years from now. Why? Because they're going to be dead. The likelihood of Biden being alive 5 years from now is astronomically and almost impossible. And Trump by 10 years, more likely, but not likely, not likely. So we got two old guys that the decisions they'll make this next term will not affect them at all. But they'll affect people like me. They'll affect probably people like you and affect other people on a huge level because we have to live with it every single day. And that's what it is. I think that's a very basic statement to say. I think that's one of the problems a lot of people do have. And the idea of, I don't like a guy that's been to Epstein Island and who's a convicted felon on many things. I know a lot of charges are loose on depending of it, but we don't like guys that are criminals in office. A lot of them have been, but there's some are not. And we try to find the few that have not been criminals in the past, whether convicted or not. A lot of people have done some shady things. Trump, whatever for it, he don't like his attitude or whatever. That's not a good thing. Some people are going to rally behind him, some people won't. And a guy that cannot speak fluently, has dementia, and sniffs kids is not my main guy either of Biden. So wait, those are two guys right there that you can easily point at the negatives. And it's not like they don't have some positives. I think Trump probably has a little bit more positives than Biden. But you have a lot of negatives you can point at, which a country will point at, especially the ones that don't get the way that they want. Another thing, schools need to get better. I believe schools have to get better for this country to be successful long term. I've gone to school my entire life. I don't know what it's like having a summer break and not having a summer break and not having school coming up. I think for schools, there's a lot of things they need to improve upon. Main thing I would say I would like more funding to public schools because private schools get enough if they want. And a lot of presidents don't really care about the public schools because a lot of our schools need rebuilding. They've been around since the 30s and the 40s, some like 50s, 60s, around for a long time, and they have no rebuilding done. I know, like, my mom came around and she went to the same middle school as I did, and the same problems they had there, they still have. And it's like, well, this is the future of our country, and we're getting brought up in these schools that aren't the most well kept. The curriculum has to be taught better, And the way you do that is let the teachers teach the way they want. A lot of times the teachers say, I don't want you to teach you all this, but we have to. Why can't we just say, why can't we give the teacher, okay, by the end of the quarter, we want these kids to know this. This is what's going to be on the test. Teach them up how you want, but by the end of these 9 weeks, we need to have the kids know this curriculum. You can teach it how you want, teach it the way you want. We're not going to force kids just to read out of a notebook for half an hour and then do practice on your Chromebook, phone, tablet, paper at times, whatever it is. That's not going to help us. For people like me, that gets boring. But when teachers are allowed to have freedom and have half days that they can do whatever they want, those classrooms are the most exciting of the day. Why? Because they let us have freedom, because the teacher gets to decide what they want. And a lot of times when teachers decide what they want, the classroom is just a lot better. Because they're paid again, a lot of teachers just connect with students better than what the county or district, wherever makes the decisions on what the curriculum should be, do. They don't go to these schools and ask these kids, what do you want to learn? Teachers deal with it every day. What the district decides is what the teachers and us have to deal with. And they aren't in these schools. They get paid a lot more than what these teachers do. And the teachers do a lot more than what they have to do, in my opinion, because they are the ones that help us as kids sometimes raise us in a way that we're the next generation up, and we have to be taught certain things. Why limit the teachers to only being able to teach a certain way? I don't understand that in a way. Okay, next up, we need to respect veterans and emergency services more. And a lot of times people disrespect veterans, and that's annoying. And because it's like, oh, veterans aren't as important as we think we are. Some people think they are. That's just disrespectful. Emergency services like the police, the firemen and women, the EMTs, every single one of them deserves our respect. But a lot of people, especially older people, say that we're the generation that's sort of disrespecting veterans and disrespecting what happened to them. And it's like, oh, we don't care about veterans and all that. Well, let's discuss where it actually came from. Because, again, a lot of people believe, well, it's happened in this generation. Well, we don't care about the veterans and all that. Well, this started happening during Vietnam. First of all, the Vietnam soldiers that went there, we were in Vietnam for about 8 years, I'm pretty sure. Vietnam, those soldiers that came back were not the same people that went in at all. A lot of people believe we should have not been in that war. I talk to people who were around that time. They believe we should have been in that war. But guess what? We were. And when we came back, a lot of soldiers got completely disrespected, spat on, thrown stuff at. Some of them did not wear their uniforms back into the country because of how much disrespect they know they would get. Why? Because we didn't believe we should be in a war, and because they fought not willingly. A lot of them were drafted there by the birthday you had. If you were February 27th, you were going. December 18th, you were going. And it was like a lottery, like the NBA draft lottery. It was just like that. And it's crazy to believe that's how it was. But that's how it was. And a lot of people from that time got disrespected that shouldn't have. And that started a trend of that being acceptable. And we talk about veterans, about what they've done before in World War II. When they came back, they were loved. The Korean War, that's not talked about a whole lot. I think that showed that we can go to war and nothing happened. We went to war in Korea, millions of people died, and no one gained territory. It went up north, went back south, and then just kind of stopped in the middle. It was in a stalemate. And then we go to Vietnam, and we have so many people just die for no reason. It was Lyndon B. Johnson wanted money. He wanted money, and he wanted these resources. The best way to make money is in war. Why? Because because we have to make things. We have to make supplies to go out to war. And war is a huge moneymaker, but you're letting these 18 to 22-year-old kids die routinely. And they're mainly poor kids. Why? Because if you were in college, you were not drafted if you were in college. If you were rich, you were not drafted. And that's why a lot of these these kids died, because some of them were just getting out of high school and didn't know what they wanted to do with their life and thought, you know what, let me take a year off. And then guess what? You're in Vietnam. Just because of that. And a lot of poor people couldn't pay their way out. So there you go. You're off to Vietnam. And we did not know that territory well at all, and they got set up so much, and it was terrible. I mean, the death rate was 1 out of 3 people died that were American citizens that went down there. It's ridiculous. And it was just a whole thing right there. But it started from there and it continued on and became more acceptable. But then things started to change. Some movies came out talking about how Vietnam was terrible. And we're like, wow, we did not do a good job at supporting these veterans. And it changed a bit. But at one point it was acceptable, and that, and if at one point it's acceptable to disrespect your veterans, it might continue. And the way countries look at us is how you treat your veterans and how you treat your military. And a lot of people don't do it well. So that's one of the things I think we need to improve. And the emergency service, of course. A lot of people, like the police, get disrespected a lot just because they're told that they're the enemy, even though they're trying to help you. You see in areas like Portland that did not get any police help because they said, we don't need the police. And guess what? They are in terrible situations because you need law enforcement in your area. You have to, or things are just going to go downhill. Next up, okay. We need a strong moral set our country can build off of. We need a strong moral set. I believe it's a great thing to base your morals based off the 10 Commandments. Because again, the coins and our money system in the country has "In God We Trust" on it. That's on it. So why do we not use the Bible based on for morals whenever it's on our coin and our money overall? In God we trust. I don't know why we don't do that. It's a great thing to build off of. Find any of the 10 Commandments, any one of them that is bad, and prove to me it's bad. And if it's a bad one, okay. I would love to hear a reason why. That and the fruit of the spirits. Those are the great things to live off of. If we base our morals based off of that, we'd be great. We'd be well off, but we've fallen very far from that, and it's very upsetting. Okay. Stop making everything about race and make us equal. That is one thing that we got to do. Stop talking about race overall. It's disgusting. It's terrible because the idea of we focus on race so much, we don't look at the character of the human. And what are we if we're defined by our race? Are we equal? Because I thought equality meant we were going to judge people after we meet them and know them and understand how their character is, not based off the race and the color of their skin and where they're from. I don't understand that, but that's how it is. Also, fun fact, if you did not know, talking about treating people with respect, Jesse Owens, in 1936, won gold in track for the United States. In 1936, Jesse Owens, he says he was treated better by the Germans in 1936 than his own Americans. 1936. You know who was in power in Germany in 1936? Hitler, who did not like blacks. He was not a fan. And 2 years later, it was the Night of Broken Glass. So we were not far off from Hitler's full over destruction of the Jews and everyone else in there that he did not like. And the Germans treated them better than we did. And he won gold for us. And it's just ridiculous. I gotta treat people fairly. We have to. Situations now. It sucks because a lot of stats out there for this is like we have to look at race in every single thing. Because that's what you have to do nowadays. You have to look at everything off of race. It's always been like that in this country. You have to look at everything off of race, and you kind of have to. But it'd be nice not to, because I feel like that would save a lot of people a lot of hassle that we don't really need. Okay. Stop worrying about the guns and care about the people who have them. That is one of my main things. A lot of people, they talk about we need gun control. When the school shootings happen, gun control. When this stuff happens, when they go into big buildings or stores and they shoot them up, let's limit the guns. But I would care about the people who have the guns and make it harder for them to get one. But make it harder to get one. Maybe just have them be licensed to get one. But a lot of people do steal guns. And a lot of them just steal, get one off the street or whatever of that nature. And I get that. But a lot of times the people who do this stuff have a genuine mental problem, have a mental illness of some sort that people have overlooked because people do not care about certain type of people. Whether It's just built up frustration over time that no one has helped this person out with, or something of that nature. Something has caused them to think the only way I can relieve my anger is to kill someone else. And sometimes the reason they do it is they don't want to hurt the person inside of them, so they hurt other people. Someone else has hurt them, and instead of doing anything to them or trying to find peace within the situation and move on, they said, I gotta hurt someone. And they pick a random group and they picture them, the ones who hurt them, on the faces of these random strangers, and they shoot them and kill them instead to relieve their anger that they had built up. But we gotta focus on we gotta focus on the people though. It's the idea of guns. I get it's a huge problem, but no gun by itself has killed anyone. It's the ones who use the guns are the reason why guns are so deadly. We have to take care of the people who have guns and have the problems mentally, and not let them have guns or any weapons of that nature that are mentally ill of those sorts. And it's like, okay, let's take the guns away and they'll be okay. No. If you're mentally ill in any way, or depressed, or anything of that nature, and you want to hurt yourself, suicidal or whatever, you're going to figure out a way to hurt yourself. And either it's going to be with a weapon, or it's going to be scratching yourself, or anything of that nature, cutting yourself, at anything. Let's help people out in a situation. Anyone of mental illness needs to be helped out. We got to make that easier for them. Another thing, stop promoting thug mentality and hoe actions, which is say it like that. You talk about one of the most popular people in the world, especially in the music genre, which is the most popular genre of anything in the world. Music is literally everywhere. That and writing. Those are the two most popular things. Some of the most popular music groups or like rappers or any artists out there promote thug mentalities, the idea of shooting people, any gang mentality of that sort. And we wonder why stereotypes continue. It's because when people look at media and they're getting promoted these ads, why would they believe anything different? They don't go out and, probably those people who believe certain stereotypes don't go out and try to figure out things like, okay, to try to disprove the stereotypes. They just accept what they see. And when this is pushed on their screen the entire time, thug mentalities, or the ideas of I'm going to shoot you up, I'm going to go here and pop your gang up and all that. Hey, guess what? That's what they're going to believe has happened. That's what they're going to believe everyone of that certain race or that ethnicity or that gender is. Because that's what a lot of people do. A lot of people on the news, who believe Democrats are this and Republicans are that, or whites are this and Asians are that, blacks are this, Hispanics are that. Like, that's just not how it is. But since it shows on the news, they're going to believe it. That's how it is. It happens a lot. And again, hoe actions, yeah, promoting people who are just half-dressed the entire time, just shaking around and all that. I'm not sure how to describe it personally, but you know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about. You can't be doing that. And if you want people to respect you and you do that, you can't be doing that. Why are we promoting that? Why is that a promotable thing? That's clearly not a good thing. There's no such thing as class or respectable. Anything respectable about that. It's just not. Oh, don't worry about them. Yeah, we're not worried about them. We're just like, this is a bad representation of us. This is a very bad representation. That's just upsetting at times, because you have a lot of good people in the industry, then you have some that are just terrible that get promoted because of what they have and what they look like. It's like, you don't sound good, look good, but you have some things on you and you're willing to show them. And it's like, yeah, that's what we want to see. It's like, no, we don't. Well, next up, make men feel important when raising kids. That's one of the things I've seen a lot. A lot of people, especially political people, just don't care about like men and they're part of raising kids. 80% of the time, the single parent is the mom, a lot of times. But there's a lot of representations of guys that were really good parents that were not able to keep the child, but the mom got full custody just because she was the woman. Just because of that. Like my brother, he has an only child. He has a kid. And the mom that he had it with, not a good person at all. But for a while, she had custody of the child, even though he was clearly the better person to raise him. Everything about him was just better than her. But for a while, they had a custody problem over him. But if the roles were reversed and he was the problem and she was doing good, he could have been in jail for the things that would happen. And the mom would have had full custody and no one would have thought about it. But since the roles were reversed, the dad had to struggle, my brother had to struggle for years to be able to get full custody. It's ridiculous how that happens. But also, June is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. Any man out there that has any problems mentally, talk to someone about it. It is okay to do so. It is not weak to talk to someone about your problems. If anything, it shows strength of some sort. I know it's not easy to do, and a lot of women are like, oh, you can talk to me about it. I never suggest to talk to a woman about your problems unless if it's your mom, a grandparent, or anyone within your specific family. Not even a wife of some sort. It's very tough to talk about. Because a lot of times, women do change what you say and use it at your worst moments to prove you wrong on something, or just like shoot you down on something. Or maybe you showed them, maybe you said something that they didn't like and they use it against you. And they use the weakest part of your life and your moments of your life against you at the moment that makes no sense to even bring it up. Just because they want to. Just because they want to win the argument. Happens a lot. That's why you have to do it. If you're going to talk to a woman, do it in your family. Because they have a lot more respect to you than anyone else does. Next up, fix the foster care, please. Can we fix this foster care problem? Let's just go through some stats real quick. Okay. Over 400,000 foster care kids are abused each year. 400,000. That is reported, by the way. If you want to do the math about it, you can. That's over 1,000 each day. That's ridiculous. While 80% are depressed. That's not a good foster care system. If this stuff is happening regularly, that is reported. 80% are depressed. Reported 400,000 yearly are abused. What are we doing as a country if this is our foster care system? And a lot of people who don't want abortions say, you know what, we need to put the kid up. You can have the kid, but we're going to put it up for adoption. If you want that, that's not the worst idea. But whenever you have a foster care system this poorly, no way that will work. And it's not the worst idea if the foster care system is good and you can find consistently good parents and good people to raise these kids. But that does not happen. I wish it would. I wish we can find a situation that this would work, but it does not happen regularly, and it's upsetting. It is. It really is. Because I know a lot of foster care. I've seen foster care kids that are great people, but don't have opportunities or have traumatic experiences because of what their life was in foster care, and it's upsetting to see. Also, some stats earlier we're talking about race or whatever, and referring to how Lyndon B. Johnson was terrible during his time. There was a part of Lyndon B. Johnson's plan of, again, he was racist. That was a huge thing. He was racist. He did help the black community out in a way. He passed some laws that, again, I think JFK wanted to pass and already had that planned. But he already passed them. But he did send a lot of blacks off the board. And during that time, it showed the government started to show like the black families that, hey, you have equal rights, equal opportunities, of course. Now you do. But let me show you what your life can be without the father in your life. And we can just go from here. In the 1960, we can talk about just people who are married. Currently, 1960, 64% of black adults were married, and now it's 32%. The nuclear family, that means the family had a dad and a mom in the household. In the 50s for blacks were 85 to 90%. Nowadays it's 37. And they have the highest divorce rate now of 30%. And there we go. Yeah. Those are just some stats right there to go off of. And it's crazy. It's crazy to see how that is, but it starts from somewhere. And you can see the progression or digression of the nuclear family within the black household, and it started around the late 60s and 70s, which is when Lyndon B. Johnson was in office, and that's a reason why. Whenever the dad dies in war, which a lot of blacks were put out in front, you had a lot of racist white guys in the back that did not want them to survive, and you had a lot of people on the other end that knew specifically, we don't like black people, so we're going to shoot them. They were the high target. They were the main target. So if there's anyone in Vietnam that you see nowadays walking around that is African American, they've been through a lot. I get anyone who's been in Vietnam has been through a lot, but man, that's a lot of pressure to be put under and survive. That's incredible. Okay, next thing, limit the electronics used in school and teach recent history. I think using Chromebooks continuously is terrible. I'll give an example. I took a physics class this year. I had a high B in that class. You know how many paper tests I took that entire year? One. One test on paper. You know where everything else was done? An online course. And I didn't ask for that. I asked for physics. But guess what? Our teacher left after a month. Why? Because there's too much pressure. He's like 76 at the time. Cool guy. Really cool dude. But no reason he should have been teaching physics at 76. Excuse me. So he retired. And guess what? We got a student teacher fill in. And they gave us a thing called Edgenuity, which if you don't know what that is, it's an online learning course that you have these certain amount of assignments you look at, of videos, you have to answer some questions, but you have tests on there. The test on there, you can look up the answers, copy and paste directly onto Google. There's no restrictions upon that. There's nothing else. You can look up all the answers. It was very easy. We got a high B by just looking up answers. That's why electronics, I think, are bad in some ways. It shouldn't be that easy. If I took a class to learn and we never got that opportunity. That's one thing about teachers. Got to treat the teachers well. Got to find good teachers too. We had 1 year that we had 30 teachers leave in 1 year. 30 teachers leave in 1 year. Some retirement, a lot more just left for better opportunities. And also, can we teach some recent history? The bare minimum people teach, it starts from like the American Revolution or around that time, and it goes to the Cold War, and it kind of just stops. Like anything after the Cold War was just nothing. Why can't we talk about like stuff like 9/11? Why can't we discuss that? Why can't we discuss the war in Afghanistan? Why can't we discuss that? It's recent history. Why can't we even discuss the time during COVID? We are a part of that. That's great. It'd be a lot more, I think it'd be a lot more cool to revisit history that we were actually a part of instead of stuff that was 70, 80 years ago, which a lot of it honestly does not have much of a factor today. It really doesn't. It really does. It like the idea of we're getting taught about like the Cold War going to happen back then. Again, we've been taught that since 5th grade. Oh, Rosa Parks, her situation. Yeah, her husband had a car. Yeah, we learned about that now, but that's never mentioned during that time. That's a fun fact, by the way. Yes, Rosa Parks' husband did have a car. That's kind of funny to think about, but that is true. Like most of the time, it's just the Civil War. That happened 170 years ago, 160 years ago. It's ridiculous. Okay, next up. This one I can talk a lot about. Stop using mental health as an excuse to not do things. A lot of people do have actual mental health problems. A lot more say they do when they really don't. Oh, I have ADHD. Oh, I have depression. Girl, dude, you just don't try. It's like, oh, I have ADHD. You can shut up whenever you want to. Whenever you have a game in front of you, you stop. You shut up then. Oh, I have OCD. You just like things like I like my Funko Pops like this. If one was taken off. Oh no, it's terrible. I gotta fix that. I gotta find a new one. OCD, to an extreme level, is crippling to a lot of people. To almost actual any level is crippling to level. There was a case of an OCD person that was to an extreme level that genuinely could not move he could not move out of bed. He was stuck in the same position in bed because his mind was not letting him move. He was not letting him move because it was that bad at some points. It's terrible. And people's like, oh, it's extreme condition. Well, yeah, but the base level should not be, oh, I like my bed set up this way. That's OCD. Oh, I have trauma experiences. Okay, you had a bad schooling in elementary. Did anyone touch you? No. Did you get physically abused? No. Nothing to like, oh, someone bullied me. I'm so sorry. Oh yeah. Yeah, you hear that in life. Someone verbally bullied you. Not physically, nothing that lasted for years, just for 1 or 2 grades, something bad happened. Okay, that's sad. There's a lot worse things that have happened in my life. Life, and for many others, are way worse a lot of times, when actual stuff happens to people, they don't like to talk about it. People who trauma dump everything, Either they have no one to talk to and they trust you enough to talk to them, which is something you should not take for granted. Let them talk to you. Or they just want to make themselves comparable to anyone when they have situations that are nowhere as worse than they actually are. It's like, yeah, my grandmother died. I got to see that happen. I had to make a call to her church that she went for 81 years to, and it was a rough time, yeah. And then a month and a half later, almost drowned. That happened to me. Do you see me running around mentioning that stuff? No. Probably most people in my friend group don't know that stuff happened because there's no reason to mention it. Because guess what? When it's trauma stuff, you deal with it in close, not publicly. You don't try to make sure everyone knows. That's the idea of like, oh, I have ADHD, I do all this stuff. No, you're just hyper and you don't know how to control yourself. Just sit down in a chair and just watch something. Do something else. You don't have to, because some people who genuinely have ADHD cannot control it, and it just makes them seem less important because like, oh, everyone has ADHD. No, you do not. No, you don't. That's frustrating. Self-diagnosed ADHD is so stupid. Same thing for depression, OCD, anything of that nature. Depression, a lot of times you just don't try hard enough to get out of it. Sometimes you do. Sometimes you have genuine seasonal depression and it's bad. But you can take steps to get better. Does it all go away? No. That's obvious. Some things just take a while to do. But it has to start somewhere. It's like if you go to rehab, if you have a drug problem or whatever, it does not go all away at once. But over months, sometimes years, it can go away. But you have to be willing to take sacrifices and be willing to take next steps to progress. You can have it for seasonal. I get that. But you just don't self-diagnose you as something that you clearly can get over, but you choose not to because you're too lazy to. That's annoying. So annoying to see that. So stop with that stuff. Because the people who generally have those mental problems are looked at as less. Because you want us to go around and say, oh, I have OCD, I have ADHD, I have depression, I have trauma. Shut up. Shut up, please. Because these people actually have it. So stop trying to compare yourself to something that you clearly aren't. That is annoying. Okay, I already talked about earlier giving teachers more freedom and teach what they want. It helps students. It will help students. I've seen it happen. Teachers that genuinely have game plans for stuff future on for 2-3 weeks, months in advance, are so much better off because they understand the kid. The district is not these 60 and 70-year-olds up in the district deciding what we need to learn from textbooks that were used 50 years ago. Does not matter. Those do not connect with kids now. We do not want to learn what you have wrote back in the days whenever, who else was off? Richard Nixon was in office. It's been a whole time ago. Biden's in office. And that guy was in political field during that time. By the way, that just shows you how long he's been in political realms for. He's been in that since like Nixon. That's ridiculous. That is ridiculous. And you can definitely tell it's aged them badly. But I've seen teachers have great game plans, and it gets shut down because of principals that say you have to do this or you get fired. And the districts are saying, you're having to do this, you have to make them do this, or you get fired. It sucks. It sucks. And also, last thing on here, can we lower the obesity rate, please? Can we just stop being fat and work out and go get a Peloton, go on a walk? Some people are like, oh, it's not bad being fat. Yes, you die that way. Heart problems raise, blood sugar problems raise, diabetes are more likely. Everything's more likely whenever you're fat. A lot more bad things are happening. Again, if you don't want to, if you're wondering if you're overweight, go on a scale, and if it creaks, you might need to check your weight because that stuff is getting you're a bit overweight at that point. Or just check the BMI rate. Look it up. You know what? Look up your BMI rate and see if the fault in your weight falls under that. And guess what? If it's overweight, change it. If you're someone who plays a sport and you have to be overweight, well, like if you're a defensive tackle, yeah, you are very athletic. That is not most people, though. That's okay. That's not most people, though. And also a lot of tackles in football, after they retire, they drop from like 310 to 270 within a year. I remember the guy named Morgan Moses was an offensive tackle. Went from like 300 pounds to like 220. Big change. Big change. Because he didn't have to be that heavy. He was good, but he didn't have to be that heavy, so he chose not to. And all these people out there are like, oh, I'm fat. Yeah, change that. You can. You gotta try, though. There's different ways to do it. YouTube has plenty. Look it up. And they're just like, the reason why you got fat because you were too lazy to handle it. And it's like, I have an eating problem. So, change it. You can change it or work out to balance it. Yes, I like to eat too. Yes, when I was younger, I was overweight. Guess what I did? I played basketball. I played for the team. I played for my school. And I made a commitment. I'm going to get better. And guess what? I got better. And guess what? I lost weight by doing it. Because guess what? When you run about a mile to 2 every day, guaranteed, you lose weight. You lose weight pretty quick. It might surprise you. Eat better. Drink better. Oh, I wonder why I'm fat. You're chugging out 5 Diet Cokes an hour. That's your problem. Stop with that. Drink water. I'd say drink tea. Drink normal juices like orange juice, apple juice, grape juice, even lemonade is that nature. That is perfectly fine. Don't abuse any other than water. Eat healthy foods. Stop going to fast foods. Make your own food. Put the stuff over the stove and make it that way. And then work out a bit. Go to the gym. Buy some curls. Do some squats. And walk for about 10-15 minutes a day. Just walking, just continuously. More time, the better walking, of course. That's the bare minimum. Just do something. That's all you got to do. Try your best and you'll be surprised with the results. Quit your bad habits, get some good ones, and you'll be surprised what happens. But a lot of people are just lazy and don't want to do it. It's ridiculous. It is ridiculous because you can eat a lot and still cut weight. You still can. Those are my opinions on it. I think that explains everything pretty well. That's my opinions. Put your own opinions in the comments and everything that you do. Hope you have a great day, y'all. Stay safe, and God bless you.